You've likely heard me say regularly that the remote district schooling that many children experienced during the COVID school shutdowns was nothing like the high quality virtual learning platforms that exist today that offer an exceptional education option. Don't let Zoom school taint your impression of virtual learning. These extraordinary online learning platforms were intentionally designed for virtual education with a curriculum meant for that medium and with teachers trained in virtual learning who choose to be a part of such a program. One of the high quality virtual learning platforms that I am especially enthusiastic about is Great Hearts Nova, which is expanding this year into a national online private school with a classical education focus. Great Hearts is a nonprofit network of public charter and tuition based private schools and microschools dedicated to improving education nationwide through classical preparatory K 12 academies in both online and on campus environments. It is the largest provider of liberal arts classical education in the country, serving more than 26,000 students at 33 schools across the US. Our guest today is Kurtis Indorf, the Chief Innovation Officer for Great Hearts America and the founder and president of Great Hearts Nova. Previously, Kurtis served in various leadership roles at KIPP Public Charter Schools, including as Chief Academic Officer. And before joining KIPP, Kurtis was the founding executive director of the Achievement Network in Colorado. Also in Colorado, he served as a gubernatorial appointee to the Charter School Institute's Board of Directors, an independent state agency for charter authorization. Kurtis was just honored as a 2023 Presidential Leadership Scholar and was also honored this year by San Antonio Business Journal's 40 Under 40. Kurtis has a master's degree in education from Arizona State University and a bachelor's degree from Ithaca College. Kurtis Indorf, welcome to the Liberated podcast.
Thank you, Carrie. That was very kind. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. We had a chance to meet in person last fall at a education innovation hybrid schools conference that Harvard University was hosting, and we were all chatting about different kinds of education models and really the kind of the future of education options for families outside of what we would consider conventional schooling. So it was great to be a part of that with you and now to chat with you here about the great successes that you're having with Great Hearts and this kind of newer expansion into being a national private school option virtually for families who are really clamoring for classical education. That is such a sought after educational approach and philosophy that more and more families are gravitating toward, and Great Hearts is meeting that demand and offering more and more programming. And I want to get into kind of what is on deck over this coming year with the expansion of Great Hearts Nova. But before that, Kurtis, maybe you could take us back to the origin story of Great Hearts, which has been providing classical education for some 20 years now. Tell us a little bit about how this all began.
That's a great question. So I'm going to start with our core purpose. The Great Hearts core purpose is to cultivate the hearts and minds of students in pursuit of truth, goodness, and beauty. And I did not say in there anything about being high academically performing or succeeding in life afterwards. All those things are also true, right? Great Hearts Arizona is the highest performing charter management organization in Arizona. And Great Hearts Texas is the fastest growing A-rated district in the state of Texas. And so those things are also true, but why we are is deeper. We really think about who students become, right? Teaching kids to love what is good and strive to become more good. Teaching students to love and appreciate that truth exists and to inquire after the truth. Teaching students to love and appreciate beauty. And try to create beauty and to appreciate that. And so Great Hearts is about more than just academics. It's about more than just culture. It's about more than just the relationships that you have with your teachers and with your colleagues. All those things are true, but when you add it all together, it's about who you are as well as what you know and what you can do. And so we launched 20 years ago to create that kind of option that families across Phoenix were really looking for. And since then have grown brick and mortar schools from Texas, from Arizona to Texas. We're launching in Louisiana, brick-and-mortar schools next year, as well as this new division, Great Hearts Nova. Nova comes from the Latin word novus, which means new things. So literally translated, Great Hearts, new things. What does the future look like? What will school look like in 20 years, in 50 years? And how do we build towards that future? A classical liberal arts education that's excellent for kids and families.
Ah, I just love that. So yeah, you have these in-person brick and mortar schools that focus on classical education. That was sort of the beginning of Great Hearts, and now moving into reaching more and more families through your online services. And
That's
then
right.
you also have a handful of microschools too that are hybrid model where you're able to use those online curriculum resources, but also bring young people together into a smaller, kind of co-learning environment. So it's great to see that you're
Yep.
experimenting with all of these different models and really meeting families where they are. And, Curtis, in thinking about the growth of Great Hearts, really breathtaking growth of Great Hearts over the past 20 years, what do you think is leading more and more families to um, desire classical education for their children?
So I think families, excuse me, um, I think families are looking for their kids to be shaped in a positive and productive way. There's a survey put out by someone who I met a few months ago at a conference that said that the number one things that parents in private schools are paying for is for their kids to develop strong character. And so we don't call this character development because that seems to suggest that character development is a program and you put it in a lane and it exists there. We talk about virtue in classical education. We talk about who you are, habits of self, and habits of your heart and of your soul and of your body. And so I think a lot of families are looking for virtue and virtue that matches their family. They want their kids to grow up to be good kids. And they also want their students to be exploring the depth of ideas and philosophies and histories and primary sources that shaped American democracy. Right. So the United States is part of a journey of ideas and thoughts that goes back for 3,000 years, back to Plato and Socrates. And that journey of conversations, the great conversation, has been happening, and it shapes our society now. It shaped our society back when it was formed, the Declaration of Independence, right? The Bill of Rights. Um, these are the ideas and thoughts that shape society, and parents want their kids to really understand that depth.
So you've had these online charter schools and some other online services, but now you're moving into this exciting next stage of offering a national private online option for families. Tell us about that. Sort of what was that process like from going with the online programs that you were already providing, and then realizing that you wanted to expand that into a national private option?
Yeah, so we started this 2.5 years ago. It was the middle of COVID. In-person schools had shut down around the country. And some teachers and some parents and some families and some kids responded with, wow, if we did this well, this could be really awesome. And there's a whole group of families across the country and across the world that are looking for more freedom and flexibility. There's a whole group of families that are looking for classical education but don't have access to it in their geography. There's a lot of families that are looking for quality and again, don't have access to it, or healthy and positive relationships. They want to, some of the bullying and some of the negativity that's happening at their school is not healthy for their children. Or they're looking to pursue what matters most to their family, whether that's long weekends hiking or sport or ballet or theater or religious belief. And they want school to match their life, right? They want to pursue their best life without sacrificing educational quality and educational purpose. And that's why we started Great Hearts Online 2 years ago, is to provide families with access to Great Hearts, the largest classical institution in the United States, provide them with a really robust school community. We have like 15 kids in a live class. Our private school is going to have 12 kids in a live class with an exceptionally qualified teacher to teach and guide their kids and have real relationships online. It's very possible. Many of you are probably thinking like, oh, I don't think that's real. It's real. If you do it right, it's real. Kids become friends. It's a beautiful thing. And flexible life, right? You can pursue what you want to with your life. You can live where you want with your life. And so as we launch Great Hearts Online Texas, and Great Hearts Online Arizona, now serving over 1,000 kids across those two charter models, we got questions from families all around the country saying, can I go to that school? And so with the booming, with the expansion of ESAs and vouchers and other school models, we want to democratize access to a high quality and flexible classical education. And so the launch of this private school gives that choice. And again, I recognize not everyone will have the financial means to take advantage of that choice, but it gives so many more families, right? The 74 million magazine, 74 million, access to have school choice where they live through accredited high quality classical virtual school.
Oh, it's so great. I think I remember reading somewhere that you had a waiting list of some 13,000 students for your brick and mortar schools
Yeah,
in Texas and Arizona. And those families don't have to wait anymore and hope that they get off of the waiting list. Now they can jump right in and take advantage of these programs. And as you say, the expansion of education choice policies that enables families to have access to education funding will just expand their options even further. So it's
that's
exciting to see
exactly right.
that.
Yeah.
So Curtis, last year, Great Hearts won the State Policy Network, SPN's Ed Prize for the work that you're doing in innovative education models, including your microschools, which really do blend kind of that in-person small co-learning environment with the online curriculum, classical curriculum that you're providing. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the microschools as well as kind of how Ed Prize tied into that. Ed Prize has now reopened this year for applications for those who are doing innovative entrepreneurial things in education. And I know that that was an important part
Yeah.
of your experience last year. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're considering applying, you're an education innovator, you're an education entrepreneur, please apply. State Policy Network, National Ed Prize. Um, so as we are thinking about new models of school, I think some of this is you have to have a philosophy about what's going to happen in the future. And too often in education, we think, well, I'm just going to do this thing. Well, why? Why are you going to do it? What's the problem you're solving? What is your philosophy of the future? And I think 50 years out, 100 years out, four things are going to be really important. One is we're going to need to have programs that can connect together like Lego blocks in different ways. Now, I can tell you right now how I think the Lego blocks are going to be assembled for the next 2 years, but in 10 years, I don't know. It'd be arrogant to make that hypothesis for 10 years out, for 20 years out, for 30 years out. So you have to create assets, stackable assets. Secondly, teaching and learning, I think, is going to be driven in large part by technology enhanced tools. Technology is getting better by the day. There's a lot of options for scalability, for customization, for high quality, for low cost. And so that's a really big part of, I think, education in the future. Three, bringing local communities together to be in person is huge, right? Kids need to have friends. Families, collections of families need to have friends. Tribes need to be formed, right? Oh, these are my people. Here's who I'm in relationship with. Here's who I'm growing up with. Here's where and how I'm being shaped and molded and formed. The ability to make those in flexible ways is going to be really important. And then finally, fourth is unbundling education. I want to take this class and this class, but not all six. Or I want to go faster. I want to go slower. That's also a really big part of the future. So that's my hypothesis. What's going to be necessary in the future? I think those four things. And one of those big things, Carrie, is the in-person learning communities. And so we worked to pair Great Hearts Online with Great Hearts Microschools, where kids are attending high quality classes through Great Hearts Online in these wraparound communities that are really, really different. And what the state, that was what we did in our first year. The State Policy Network's Ed Prize allowed us to invest in creating these communities around Texas and around Arizona to bring families together. So there's two ways of thinking about a micro school. There's like build one and then families come, or there's like ground up, bring families together, and then they'll start to create a micro school, right? They'll start to come together more frequently. And so these regional communities, we bring families together every month in 6 geographies across Texas, 6 geographies across Arizona, to go to trampoline parks, to go to parks, to play games, to visit the zoo. These are all kids in Great Hearts Online. And they're all building in-person relationships. So they go to school together live online, and then they meet up on the weekends once a month, and they are meeting up more frequently in their geographies. And that also starts to build demand and interest and desire in creating their own school, right? Creating their own Great Hearts Micro School.
So, Curtis, we've talked before about the fact that we are in some ways still in the early adopter stage of education innovation, that it's the families willing to venture out to try something new, whether that's a virtual learning platform like Great Hearts or a micro school, which is that kind of hybrid option. And it takes a leap for many of these families. Sometimes they feel like conventional school may not be working, and it's worth a shot to try something different and hopefully better. And I think that's the case for a lot of these families, that they do find when they're able to customize their education more, they're able to have that better fit. But what do you think it's going to take for more and more families to try something different beyond a conventional classroom, especially in the online space?
Yeah, I think what is difficult to communicate, and so some of this I think is storytelling and examples and anecdotes, is how different a high quality online school is from emergency distance learning that everyone experienced. Right. So we've had tons of families come and join, and we talk to them about what it's like. And then two weeks in, they're like, oh my goodness, if I knew it was going to be like this for my child, for my family, for their education, I wouldn't have had so many questions. Can I tell my neighbors? We're like, yes, please go tell your neighbors. But there is a huge value proposition for the whole family. This is not just about the student. This is about the whole family and how that family lives life together. And so communicating that and families sharing that with each other, I think is going to be really, really, really important. I also think having really high quality, strong brand, proven operators in the space, and this is part of what we see is our responsibility to do. Like Great Hearts is a strong, proven brand of classical education in many, many states across the country. And so we want to take that into the online space and to tell families and show families like this can be excellent for you and your kids.
I love that. Yes, you have this time-tested model of success with your brick and mortar schools, and now over the past several years with your online programs. And so families should feel more confident to try something. Curtis, I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about what you're hearing when families and students come to Great Hearts Online. You know, you said some of them are just surprised that it was so good and wish that they had heard about it sooner. What else? What are some other examples of stories you've heard from families and students themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. So people come to Great Hearts Online for all different reasons, right? Some families are, I've tried homeschooling. I like the concept of homeschooling, but the idea of planning and grading, all of these content areas for all my kids every day is a lot, right? And so we think of those families as this like homeschool light, right? You want the upside of homeschooling, but you also want an expert teacher, actually many expert teachers, because we also have a rotating expert model starting in 3rd grade, right? Where students will have like 6 expert teachers for every subject area. Like that's valuable. And so families are saying we get the upsides of homeschool, we get that life, we still are connected to our communities and we go to co-ops, but we are partnering with a trusted, high quality, organization that shares similar values. That's one of the many reasons. Other families come because their kids are really stressed and anxious about the concept of school. We have families who are like, my son was a bully and school was feeding into that. We have parents who come and say, my son got picked on and in-person school was feeding on that, or all ranges in between. And so again, in an online format, we have seminar and small groups, 3 to 4 kids engaging in discourse and conversation together. And it's just a space to become the best version of yourself, right? The families, the kids that were stressed, that were anxious, that were not in a healthy place, are able to blossom and bloom into these best versions of themselves. And the bullying, there's no space for that. And it really gets cut out. And kids can transform who they are when they're put in a space where there's the possibility to transform. So there's a wide range, and of course, families that kids play sports or like take horseback riding, or they want to go hiking, or they live maybe in 2 places across the year, right? So there's a lot of different reasons. An online school does create density, right? Learning happens in a shorter period of time, which means more time is open up elsewhere, and it hacks time and place. You can live in A place and B place and C place. You can go to different time zones, right? It does open up time and place as well.
So true. And I'm glad you brought up homeschooling too, Curtis. Of course, homeschooling has grown, it was growing rapidly pre-2020, and it has now skyrocketed, staying well above pre-pandemic levels, even though schools are back to normal. And I think you're right that some families, they enjoy that kind of freedom and flexibility of homeschooling. Like you said, being able to travel or not be tied to kind of a conventional school week schedule is really appealing for a lot of families. And yet they may not want to be managing the curriculum themselves. They may not want to be, as you say, grading their child's work, especially in the older years. And so with Great Hearts Online, you are trying to expand. It's starting off this year as a K-9 option, and then we'll be expanding each year into the high school level. It's an accredited online school. So parents would be able to have a pathway to a high school diploma, presumably, if they wanted to do that. And it could be a great option for homeschooling families. I wonder if you can tell us about kind of what the rollout will look like this year and into the future.
So this coming year, so Great Hearts Online National Academy is the name of our national online school, our private school. And so I'm excited to announce that, to share that. That will be launching in August 2023. We'll launch in grades K through 9, and every year we'll build out 1 grade at a time into high school. Excuse me. In high school, our courses, students will be getting college credit-bearing courses. And so there's a number of really key strategic partnerships we're working on. Nothing is inked yet, but I'm excited to share that in the coming months and years as we define and clarify who our partners will be, to give families the best of a high-quality classical education, the best of online flexibility and acceleration, and the best of like college-going credits and enrollments to help students succeed in the next stage of their career, in the next stage of their education. There's 2 models that we have for Great Hearts Online. One is a live model. It's a teacher-led live model. And so in K through 2, there's fewer than 12 kids in a live class for 2 hours a day. And that's where we really kind of condense the teaching, the learning, the conversation. Kids will read Frog and Toad and have seminar about it in the younger grade levels, right? They're going to read A Bargain for Francis and talk about it with their class, because we believe reading full books and engaging in seminar starts in kindergarten. And then in 3rd grade is a little bit of a hybrid year. In 4th through 9th, we'll have about 4 hours Monday through Thursday in live class, where they're rotating between expert teachers, right? Our 3rd grade teacher, literature teacher in Texas, has her PhD in literature from University of Dallas. right, which is a classical school. She used to be a professor of classical education in literature department. She's teaching third grade, right? So these are our teachers. These are our educators. This is their passion. This is their heart. They're going to love your kids. They're going to love their content. They're going to love shaping not only the mind, but also the heart, right? What kids can do, and who kids can become. And that's really, really important part of the both end of our work. So that's our live model. We also have a flex model. A lot of families are looking for more freedom and flexibility. So the live model does have some live class Monday through Thursday. The afternoons are always asynchronous, and Fridays are asynchronous. But some families want more flexibility than that, right? Families looking for more freedom and flexibility. That's what we call our flex model, where there's not required live class. We have tutoring, we have intervention, we have small reading groups. Those are all optional and offered, but that is our flex model. That is also K through 9. So that's what we're launching this coming year, and we'll grow 1 year at a time after that to 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
Oh, such an exciting announcement, Kurtis. And again, families in states that are rolling out education savings account programs and other school choice policies will have greater access to these models at either no cost or lower cost. But if you're a family in a state that doesn't have an ESA, like here I am in Massachusetts, and I know there's demand for classical education here, what would it cost a family paying out of pocket for this online program?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're working really hard to make our school model premier and accessible, right, in parallel. And so our live model is $10,500 a year. We have $3,000 per student available in scholarships, and that's really going to go towards low-income military families and large families. And so 10,500 with up to $3,000 available per student in scholarship. Our flex model, because it's less time-based, right, with a teacher, we have some flexibility in tuition for that. And so that's $8,500 with up to $2,500 in scholarship. And so if you're a low-income family and you want to engage in the flex model, that's $6,000 per kid, right? With that 8,500, 2,500 in scholarship. And that starts to get in range of a lot of the ESAs being rolled out across the country. And so we want to peg and not give up on the dual focus of premier, of high quality, exceptional quality, because that's part of why families go to Great Hearts Online, as well as accessible, and really trying to democratize accessibility to high quality classical education.
And that price tag too is significantly lower than other private education options available in many areas. So the lower price tag is accessible there. And of course, hopefully we can continue to see the expansion of school choice policies that makes every family who wants access to this classical education model that Great Hearts provides able to get that. So I know, Kurtis, you said that it can be arrogant to predict the future, but I am going to push you a little bit to say, to ask, where do you see Great Hearts Online, let's say 5 years from now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we want to provide families with high quality classical solutions to meet their educational needs. I think there's layers to that. We're developing asynchronous courses. So if you're a homeschool family and you're like, oh, I have all content areas, but I really want my kids to take a classical Latin class, you can buy that a la carte. And we're building that right now, and we'll be launching that next year as well. Or literature, or history, or math, or I want 3, but I don't want the other ones, right? So that picking and choosing, the unbundling of education, that's a big part of what we're working on right now. The flexible model, the Great Hearts Online Flex model, is also really important, and so we're going to continue to develop that and to grow that. The live model, and then microschools. Microschools are interesting, Carrie, and there's a number of things that we're really considering and thinking through in microschools. And I'm going to use the word microschool and kind of cross it out. Right? A microschool is one iteration of an in-person community. there are other iterations of an in-person community, right? There's the homeschool co-op, right? There is the in-person education center for enrichment and community that is not connected to your school, right? Either homeschool or virtual school, similar to maybe KaiPod. There are these centers kind of growing across the country that are usually subscription based. So really interested in the concept of a Great Hearts Family Forum. What if it didn't matter if you went to Great Hearts Online or if you're homeschool or if you went somewhere else, but you want to come together in person for these enrichments and communities and classes that are supplemental to the core. So that's an idea that we're thinking with. Obviously, microschools are also very exciting and something that we're continuing to work on. But there are multiple kind of models of in-person community, and we're excited to explore more of what those will look like as time goes on.
Ah, so exciting. What a great time to be a part of this and to be building the future of online and hybrid and brick and mortar education, and seeing, as you say, the trends that will impact that evolution from technology to kind of blended learning, unbundling, and these co-learning communities. So I'm excited to see where everything goes for Great Hearts over the next few years. But in the meantime, if my listeners and viewers are excited about registering later this year for Great Hearts Online, what is the best way for them to reach out and connect?
Absolutely. The best place to go is to our website. It's www.greatheartsonline.org. And there's a link on there, National Academy. We will be doing invite-only information sessions with our executive director of Great Hearts Online, Heidi Vasiloff, our headmaster, and a number of other teachers that will be in the school. So go ahead, put your name in there. We'll reach out to you. We'll send you invites to these kind of small info sessions so that you can get to know Great Hearts Online and we can get to know you. In our first year, we are planning on serving about 80 kids in Great Hearts Online National Academy. It's going to be a small first year launch. We want to hit a home run or maybe a grand slam. That is the plan for the coming year. And then from there, we'll grow. But we really are looking for the right fit families that we can work with to, again, give them the ability to pursue their best life without sacrificing educational quality or educational purpose. And that's where to go. greatheartsonline.org.
Kurtis Indorf, thank you again for being on the Liberated podcast.
Gary, thank you so much. It was great to be here with you today.